Hi everyone, let's go ahead and get started with the array indexing and slicing. We have previously seen how you can create one-dimensional, two-dimensional and three-dimensional vectors, and we also saw the method as many dimensions you want, you can create your vector. But the question is here, how you can index your array. I mean to say that if I ask you to get a value from a particular dimensions, how would you get that? So we will start with the first dimension vector. Let's go ahead and copy our first dimension vector, which we had here. I'm just going to copy that and paste it here. That is the A. The dimension of A is the one dimension vector. For a zeroth element, that's mean the element which is at the first index here, which is referred with the 0. So its indexing starts with the 0 and length minus 1. That means there are 4 elements. Indexing will start with the 0, 1, 2 and 3. Alright. So the A0 is 1. That is the first value. That is also known as 0th index. And the first A1 means second value. You should be getting here 2. And if I say here A3, you will be getting the fourth value. So whatever the number is here, you just add plus 1. So that's the value you will be getting from that index. 0, 1, 2, 3. Alright, the 3 means a fourth value. Let's say if you don't know the length of vector and I ask you to get the last value, then how would you get that? You need to do here reverse indexing. That means a minus 1. So the minus 1 means start in reverse order and get the first value. Do remember here, a reverse indexing does not start with 0 like a forward indexing starts with the 0. In reverse, you start with the minus 1. A minus 1 says that get the last value, and minus 2 says that get the second last value, and minus 3 says that get the third last value. Alright, that's how you can do the indexing of the one-dimensional array. Alright, let's go ahead and see the two-dimensional vector, how you can access the indexes of the two-dimensional array. We are just going to copy the previous two-dimensional array, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just for simplicity, I'm going to say here 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So that you can know properly which index we are going to refer there. Alright, let's go ahead and print this value so that it will be a little clearer to you. This says that the rows, so there are 2 rows and 4 columns. I ask you to get the first value, that's mean this value. How would you get that? A0. Alright, but you didn't get that. Alright, that was the expected. You know the problem is here. When we were working with the one-dimensional vector, then one index was sufficient to get the first value. But when we are working with the two-dimensional vector, then it needed 2 indexes there. Similarly, if you are working with the three dimension, then you need a 3 index there, or n dimension, then you need a n index there. Since it is a 2 dimension, then you need here a 2 index, and those 2 index you can provide with the comma. That means this 0 starts with the 0. Alright, it says that the first row and first column. So the first row, first column, that's mean the index 0 and 0, then you will be getting this value. Alright, here you got this value. Just to make it a little more clearer to you, you just print here A0. A0 means the first row. A1 means second row. So if I print here a first row, now this becomes a one-dimension vector. Now in this you can apply one-dimension indexing to get any of these value. Now if you consider this A0 as the one-dimension vector, then obviously by referring the concept what we learned earlier, to get the first value, you need to provide here a 0th vector there. Alright, something like this. Do you see the beauty of these two lines of the code? You can provide the 0, 0 with the comma. Otherwise, you can provide here as the individual index there. So this A0 gets a one-dimensional vector, and then the next 0 gets the first value of the one-dimensional vector. That's when this one. Let's suppose that again we try to evaluate A0. We get the first row here, and now I ask you to get the last element. Alright, if you consider this vector as the two-dimensional vector, then that could be a little complicated to you. But if you take the A0, that's in the first row, then it becomes here one-dimensional vector, and as you know, to get the last value, you need to just put here a -1. So you will be getting here a last value. Similarly, you can remove these two brackets and you can replace these two brackets with the comma. You can get it like this: A0 -1. That means 0, comma -1. That means we are taking here a first row, and in the first row last value, which is this one. Let's go ahead and print it. Now you see there, just for a simplicity, let's go ahead and comment that one. Now you see this one is getting printed here. The value is 4. That means for both of these, it is giving us a right result of 4 and 4. Perfect. Let's go ahead and see how we can access a three-dimensional vector. We need to first create a three-dimensional vector. So we are just gonna copy the earlier vectors, and then I'm gonna paste it here. The earlier vector, now I need to change its value. So I make it like 11, 22, and then 33, 44. And here I make it 10, 20, 30, and 40. And then here I'm gonna make it like 100, 200, 300, and 400, so that we have here a distinct value, and when we access these values, it would be more clearer to us which value we are accessing here. Let's go ahead and print this A. So if you remember, in a previous lecture I told you a three-dimensional vector is a collection of the two-dimensional vector, and two-dimensional vector is the collection of the one-dimensional vector, and one-dimensional vector is the collection of a scalar or zero-dimensional vector. So to access this a three-dimensional vector, you can simply convert it into a two-dimension, and then you can access the values like we accessed in our two-dimensional vector. For example, if I ask you to access this value, do the indexing to access this value, then how would you access this value? First of all, you need to know that how many rows, how many columns, and how many dimensions are there. That you can do like a.shape. It says that there are 2 cross 4. There are 2 cross 4. Alright, these are the two-dimensional vectors. And then there are the 2 rows. There are 2 dimension. So it says that there are 2 dimension for a 2 rows and 4 column vectors. And I ask you to access this one. So this one is the second dimension and first vector. Alright, so how you can access that? You can write it like this. A0 means this first row. Alright, so you will be getting this one. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 22, 33, and 44. But we want to access this one. That means that is the A1. So A1, now you got this whole vector. Alright, let's go ahead and do the indexing to get this one dimension vector. So out of these, now you can provide a 0. For a 0, that's mean this indexing, and 1 means this one. So if you provide here a 0, now you got this vector. Again, you got here a one-dimensional vector, and I ask you to access this 40. So there are 2 ways to access. Either you can provide here the index in a forward mode or index in a reverse mode. If you provide index in forward mode, 0, 1, 2, and 3, that means you need to provide here 3. Otherwise, you can provide the dimension indexing in reverse mode. So you can provide there a -1. That means we are accessing it from the backside, the first element from the backside, which is the 40. Perfect. Till now we have been accessing a single value from the vector, but there are ways to access these values together. I mean to say that you can access multiple values together. For example, if I ask you to access these two middle values at one time and these two middle values at one time, then how would you do that? It's pretty much simple. So since these two falls into a second index, then you need to provide here A1. Now I asked you to access these and these. That means I asked you to access these values from all rows. So if I say for all rows, then you can simply provide here a colon. So the colon means we are going to access from all rows, and then for individual vectors, we want value from second and third one. Alright, that's in 0, 1 and 2. So we need 1, 2, 3. Do you remember if we access 1 to n, we access the values from 1 to n minus 1. That means we need to get it here from 1 to 3. That's mean just before 3. That's mean 2 and 0. It's like this 1, 2, 3. If you do that, you will be getting the values which I told you earlier. That means you are getting here 20, 30 and 200 and 300. Alright. So similarly, you can do for 1 dimension and 2 dimension or 3 dimension or as many as dimensions you want. Alright. This is all about in this lecture. Thanks a lot for watching this. I'll see you next one.